Hi everyone. For those who don't know me, I'm Tom. I'm a hypnotherapist working out of Norwich in the UK. And I wanted to make a video about anxiety, helping people to understand it better, because it's the most common symptom that people present when they come to see me for therapy. No matter what their condition, the chances are they will use the word anxiety or feeling anxious to describe how it is they feel. So this is a video just to help you understand some of the key principles and facts around anxiety. We're going to cover three broad topics in this. First of all, what is anxiety, why it happens, and some things that you can do to help to ease it. So what is anxiety? First of all, I'm going to say anxiety is a word. It's a word that hasn't been around all that long. First came into use in 1869, developed by a New York doctor called George Miller Beard, who had noticed something in his patients that didn't quite fit the diagnoses that were available to him at the time. When you think that human beings have been around for something like 200,000 years, it begs the question, what did people use to describe how they felt before anxiety was available? So I'm saying this not to belittle the effect anxiety has on people, but simply to make the point it hasn't been around forever, certainly not as long as we as a species have been. And when we use a word, something like this, to describe a very complex set of emotions and bodily sensations and thoughts, it kind of takes away what it is that we understand it to be. It gets used very commonly nowadays. So it is just a word. It is also a natural process. So I'll go into this more in a moment, but we have a natural threat avoidance process operating within us, and it's very good that we do, because it's helped us to avoid danger over all of the millennia we've been around. But it's something that often gets overlooked when we talk about anxiety. It's based on something that should be happening, very natural. Now, where it becomes a problem is when that natural order becomes a disorder, as you see here on screen. So it's based on a natural process. And I think that's a useful thing to bear in mind if you're someone who is considering anxiety, either for themselves or someone that they know. So next, into why anxiety occurs. And when I say this natural process, as you see here on screen, there's three broad stages this follows. First of which is detection of threat. And this is going to happen through one of our senses. The body will become aware of a threat, and it will mobilize us to act, to defend ourselves against that threat. And this happens without any thought at all, and it happens within split seconds. If you stepped out into the road and there's traffic oncoming, your body will mobilize a response before you've even had a chance to think. And it's a good job that it does, because that can be life preserving. So the start point is detection of threat, and then moving into a response. And this takes, broadly speaking, one of two forms. We either seek to defend ourselves and fight it off, or we can run away. And that, again, that assessment of, is this something I can fight, or am I better off avoiding it, is made in a fraction of a second and happens very much automatically, and is what we refer to as a subconscious process. Now, where anxiety becomes a problem for people is when this response cannot complete. It can't fully go around that loop from threat to response to recharge and restoration of the system. And there's two ways really for why this occurs. Why can that natural process not complete? And when I talk about natural processes, it's important to think of it in terms of your breathing or your digestion or your heart rate. These are all things that happen subconsciously and naturally. If we breathe in and hold our breath, then obviously it's going to become uncomfortable pretty quickly. And you can apply that same principle here with anxiety. If it can't complete the loop that has been started, then it becomes a disorder. So two reasons as to why that occurs. First of all, if the problem, or the threat I should say, is too large or too abstract that the body can't effectively mobilize that response to address it. It can't fight it and it can't run from it because it's just too big. And this forms the basis of much of what we're exposed to through modern society and modern living. Media is global. We are aware of things that are happening in countries other than ours or within our own country, but things that, although they could be perceived as a threat, there's nothing really we can do about them directly ourselves. And this is a real driver for anxiety symptoms, where people are aware of lots of things that are bigger than them and bigger than their ability to influence it, but they can't do anything about it. And of course, in that case, that anxiety response can't complete. The second broad area is if the threat or the danger is below our conscious awareness, as in we know that we feel anxious, but we don't know why, and we don't know why at a conscious level. However, at a subconscious level, in the deeper part of us, the feeling part of us, then there will be some information and insight as to why that is. And it may have been something that dates back from a time before in life, it's been unaddressed, and it just sits there and causes that fear response to activate and take place. So 5 things you can actually do to ease anxiety. The first of which is your language and your use of language. People, when they come to me and describe how they feel, very commonly they will adopt words such as my anxiety or I have anxiety, and there's almost an identity that goes with that. Just be aware that when you use these words, they also send communication down to a subconscious level to reinforce the idea that you have this thing. It's no more true to say, I have breathing, again, putting it back into that natural process terminology. So this is what we call in therapy terms a reframe. So just be careful with the words you're using and don't make it any more important than it needs to be. This is a natural process that's taking place that will at some point find its natural order, and then obviously calm will return. Second is acceptance. Now, I talked there about things that are too big or too abstract that you can't effectively deal with it, and the body has no way of really responding to threats that are on that kind of scale. So things that you can't control, try your best to either accept them or limit your exposure to media forms that are going to make you aware of things that are beyond your control. So this idea of acceptance, whilst also being aware of obviously what's going on. The next one is kindness. Now, it's very common for people when they feel the symptoms of anxiety to develop a self-critical approach to that. So they will criticize themselves and they will say, it doesn't make any sense, I just feel anxious. This is the rational mind, the conscious mind having its say on things, and it's coming in, it's saying, well, there is no threat here, I can see there is no threat, and yet your body is still responding in that way. So when I say kindness, it might be more accurate to say compassion. Just accept the fact that your body is trying really hard to do something to address a threat that it's detected, and it needs some help in closing that loop down. So being kind towards the symptom and to yourself is a really important part of easing anxiety. Fourth is breathing. Now, breathing is something that is massively overlooked because, after all, we all do it all day, every day. The thing is, we just do it badly in most cases. So using breathing, it's one of the few bodily processes that you actually have willful control over. So unlike your heart rate or digestion, which just take their own natural order, breathing is something which on 1 second can be automatic and you can be doing it without any thought at all. And next you can actually willfully control it and slow down your breathing and regulate it. Now, I won't go into it in depth here. I'll make another video soon on this because it is important. But just for now, take my word on this. Breathing and this technique you see on screen, which is box breathing, first developed by the US Special Forces to help them reduce their anxiety and panic levels in the moment in combat, which that in itself gives you an idea of how effective this particular method is. So I'll come back to breathing in another video, but for now, just appreciate what breathing can do and learn to use that technique to just reduce your anxiousness and your stress response in the moment. After all, it's free and you've always got it with you. So just a quick recap, careful with the words you use. Try and avoid, if you can, talking about it as something that you have, my anxiety. It's a symptom. Secondly, accept what you can't control. Third on there, don't criticize how you feel. Try to avoid that temptation of the rational minds to come in and start to make the problem worse by being critical of how it is that you feel. And on there as well, breathing is best. And as I said, it's free. Develop this technique, it will serve you well. And lastly, if you want to talk further and you need help with managing your anxiety at a root level, what you see here on screen is mostly helping with the symptoms of anxiety, then please do get in touch. I'd be more than happy to have a conversation, and we can talk about whether what you are suffering with is something that I can help with through hypnotherapy. And just to leave you with that quote on screen from Marie Curie, nothing in life is to be feared, it's only to be understood. I hope through watching this video, you understand what anxiety is that bit better and can start to move on from any symptoms that you have. Thanks for watching.